So n8n just dropped their native MCP server node and their MCP client node, which are absolutely incredible. So in this video, I'm going to show you step by step how to set up your MCP server node, and you can give it any tool that's available inside n8n, which is again absolutely incredible and makes it very powerful. Once you set the MCP server, then you can have access to all these tools from a host like the Claude desktop or from an AI agent within n8n using the MCP client tool. If this is too confusing, don't worry about it. I'm going to explain everything and I'm going to show you step by step how to set these up, so that way you get it set up once the correct way and then you'll be all good in the future. All right, so without any further delay, let's jump right into the video. All right, so I'm in my blank workflow. I'm going to go ahead and give you a demo first so that we see exactly how amazing this thing is. And then we're going to go ahead and step by step set everything up. All right, so I'm going to head over to my community because I'm going to just download quickly the blueprint here. So I'm going to go to my deep dive topics and scroll all the way down. I'm just going to download this blueprint, download. Okay, go back here, import from file, demo. Okay, perfect. So right now I have the MCP server on the left-hand side and then at the MCP client on the right-hand side. We'll come back to the MCP client in a little bit. First of all, I'm going to show you how to trigger this or how to use this MCP server from outside n8n, so using the Claude desktop, for example. And then we're going to come back and use our AI agent also to consume all of these tools that is available within our MCP server. All right, so as you can see on the left-hand side here, so let me just zoom in here first. Okay, so this is our MCP server trigger. So this is just a simple server. Again, I'm going to come back and show you exactly what this is or how to set this up. It has access to a Gmail tool, a Google Calendar tool, an expense agent tool, which is basically calling another workflow within my n8n, and then also the Pinecone vector database. So this is all of I've uploaded really complex PDFs about crypto and everything related to crypto knowledge. And as you can see, it says the name crypto knowledge base. So now if I go to my desktop app, Claude desktop app, this is basically our host in this case. And this is consuming the MCP server here. Again, I'm going to explain all of this, but I just want to show you quickly before I show the demo so that way you can see what's going on. And if I see inside my Claude desktop, you can see right here, it says 5 MCP tools available. If I click on this, so this says available MCP tools. Claude can use these tools provided by specific servers using the model context protocol. So it has calculator, crypto knowledge base, expense agent, Gmail, and Google Calendar. All of this is exactly what this MCP server has access to. So that's exactly what's happening here. So let's go ahead and use this thing, right? So first of all, let's go ahead. I'm going to say, do I have any meetings tomorrow? And it should use the Google Calendar, right? So I'm going to say, what do I have any meetings tomorrow? I'm going to say use the Google Calendar tool. I'm going to press enter. So now this should reach out to the MCP tool that it has access to, and it's going to ask me to allow it. I'm going to click for allow for this chat. So now it's going to go ahead and use my Google Calendar to bring up all of my meetings. As you can see, I have 3 meetings tomorrow. And if I go to my Google Calendar, that's exactly what it is. Busy from 10 to 11 a.m., lunch with John, AI workshop onboarding. So if I go back, 10 to 11 a.m. marked as busy. Lunch with John, 4:30 to 5 p.m. AI workshop onboarding. Perfect, right? So now let's go ahead and test another meeting. And if I go here, let me quickly show you. If I go to the executions, because this is active. So if I access the latest execution, this will show me exactly that it reached out to the MCP server trigger. It used the Google Calendar tool to retrieve that information, right? So perfect. So now let's test out the Pinecone vector database tool. So this is where all of my crypto knowledge base, I'm going to ask it very specific questions. So if I go inside my folders, these are all of the files. They're very complex data that's sitting inside that vector database. So I'm going to actually ask it a question from this particular image. So I'm just going to say, for example, what was the price of Bitcoin that spiked at the end of 2013, for example, right? So this is from a previous video I did. So it should give me this answer of 1238. So this is a very specific question or a very specific knowledge that I'm asking it from this vector database. So let's go ahead and test that out. So I'm going to say, what was the Bitcoin spike to at the end of 2013? And I'm going to say, use the crypto knowledge base tool. Okay, so press enter. So now it's going to reach out to the knowledge base tool here. There you go. It's going to ask me to allow for this. I'm going to click on the allow for this chat. And by the way, if you don't believe me, you can go ahead and test this exact example from your regular Claude, and it's not going to be able to provide this exact answer. So there you go. It says, according to the crypto knowledge base, Bitcoin spiked to approximately $1,238 in 2013. So if I go to that image again, that's exactly what it says right here, right? All right, perfect. So now you can see it's using exactly all of our tools, and we can test out the other ones as well. I can send an email, I can use the calculator or an expense agent, for example, but you can test that on your own. So let's go ahead and now test this MCP client tool that I've set up here inside n8n. As you can see, I'm just telling it to use all the tools that it has access to. I'm not giving it anything else. And I'm going to show you exactly what's going on later on when we set this up, because essentially this MCP client tool is reaching out to this MCP server that we have set this up here. So let's go ahead and test that out. So I'm going to click on open chat here, and I'm going to ask it the same exact questions, and it should be able to reach out to this trigger or reach out to this and give us the information. So I'm just going to say this time, what was the price? Let me actually remove the memory so that way it reaches out directly there. What was the price? Actually, let me just copy and paste this, otherwise it's going to take too long. There you go, copy, paste. Okay, I'm going to press enter. So now it should utilize the MCP client tool. It should reach out to this particular tool that it has access to, and it should give us that information. So if I go to the log here, as you can see, it's reached out here, and exactly it worked out perfectly, right? Look, it reached out to the tool name crypto knowledge base tool, and it grabbed that response from this image right here, right? Image description, and it gave us that exact information. So it looks like it worked perfectly. So if I go to the execution now, and as you can see, the last one, so this should, there you go, perfect, right? It showed exactly that the last one that we sent that query, it reached out to the Pinecone vector database and it grabbed the correct information. So now let's go ahead and actually send an email, right? Or actually, I'm going to ask, how much did I spend on marketing the last quarter of 2024? So now this should reach out to this expense agent tool, because this is a separate workflow that I have that has access to vector database that has all of my expenses, right? So as you can see, it says October 2024, I spent $1,500 on YouTube ads, $700 on Facebook ads, and $900 on sponsored post LinkedIn, which I didn't. This is just a demo, but you can see in the bottom here, it reached out to the expense agent and it grabbed all that information. And if we go to the execution again, you will see the last one, it reached out to this exact tool that is again calling a separate workflow that is sitting on another n8n workflow. So you can see this is incredible. Now it makes things extremely simple for your AI agents, because you can essentially attach every single tool that you can to this MCP server, and then your AI agent, instead of attaching multiple tools or multiple workflows, you can just attach this MCP client tool that then will have access to all of the tools that is sitting inside your MCP server, right? So if I click on select tools here, you will see that these are all the different tools that's available for my MCP server that this AI agent can have access to from this MCP client tool. All right, so hope that made sense. Let's go ahead now and build this thing out step by step. And I'm going to show you exactly what to do, so that way you don't miss anything and you set this thing up once and you're all good to go. All right, so we're going to start setting up our MCP trigger or MCP server trigger first, because this is the first step of setting up all of the tools that you can give access to your MCP server, which then can be consumed by an MCP host. Now, MCP hosts could be an AI agent, right? Or it could be something like a Claude desktop app. So I'm going to show you both of them. First, we're going to set up the Claude desktop, and then I'm going to show you the AI agent that you can attach to MCP client tool that we will be able to consume this MCP server. So let's go ahead and start with our trigger. And I'm going to click on this plus button, and you're just going to search for MCP. And as you can see, this MCP server trigger shows up. All right, so it has only a few parameters. First thing is the test URL and production URLs. I would highly suggest going to the production URL, because the test URL could be pretty messy. So let's go ahead and switch to production URL. The authentication, it has the ability to authenticate, but for now we're going to leave it as none. The path, just like you've seen on, like, for example, a form trigger, this gives you the path that you can set up yourself manually, or you can leave it as it is. I'm going to make it very simple. I'm just going to say MCP. So that way it's extremely easy to use, right? And it's going to use the SSE protocol. This is the only protocol that it's able to use. Again, if you're not familiar with these terms, watch my previous video where I explain, I'm going to put the link in the description, where I explain exactly what MCP is and how to access the different MCP servers that are out there in the market, and like a proper explanation. And again, by the way, this is part of the deep dive series that I'll be doing later down the line for my community. So the deep dive topics right here. So all of what MCP is, everything, all these resources, everything is available nice and neat, including the blueprint, obviously. And I'm gonna be doing more videos on this for my school community. And again, if you're interested in learning about these incredibly complex topics, make sure you join the school community. We have an amazing group of people who are all passionate about learning and creating amazing AI agents and workflows for businesses, for their personal use case. We have calendar section, we have calls on a daily basis, we have live builds, co-builds. We have an amazing classroom that has that you can have access to all of my existing and future workflows, including all of the tools. We have exclusive deep dive topics like the MCP, the full stack web apps, voice agents, factor databases, and much, much more. So make sure you check that out. I'm going to put the link in the description. All right, but back to the video. So let's go ahead, and now that you have created your MCP server trigger, you have named it the path, you can say whatever you want. I'm just going to say MCP, so that way it's very simple to use. So now we have our MCP trigger as far as the parameters, that's all set up and good to go. All right, so now let's go ahead and give this a tool. I'm just going to give it two simple tools. First is going to be a calculator. And then the second is going to be, we're going to start with the Gmail because that's very simple, right? So I'm just going to give it a Gmail tool. And then here you can just set up your Gmail account. It's very simple. You click on new credentials. It will go ahead and have you sign into your account and you're all good to go. So I'm going to do the operation as send, and all I'm going to do is just click on these little defined by model. So that way everything is done automatically, and I'm going to leave everything as it is. So, all right. So now we have these two tools. So let's go ahead and now set up our host. In this case, I'm going to use our Claude desktop, and then I'm going to come back and also set up our AI agent as a host as well. So now right now the server trigger has these two tools. So now we'll go ahead and switch to Claude. So if you don't already have a Claude desktop installed, you're just going to go to Claude AI, and actually I'm just going to say Claude AI desktop app. Okay, it's very simple. You're just going to click on download. Whether you have Windows or Mac, make sure you click on the right one. So I have Mac, so I'm just going to click on Mac OS, and it downloads the Claude file here. So I'm just going to go ahead and let that finish. All right, I'm all set. So I'm just going to click on that image. There you go. So Claude desktop got added. So I'm going to move this over here to applications. Perfect. So now let's go ahead and open this thing up. All right, there you go. All right, so I've got my Claude open now. You're just gonna again click on your Claude desktop. So this is what it's gonna look like. I have a pro account, but if you have a free account, that's fine, it'll work as well. It's just that you will have limited messages that you can send. So anyways, so now as you can see on the bottom right here, I don't have anything but this plus button and also search and add tools, right? Search and tools. So let's go ahead and now add or connect this host to our MCP server inside our n8n. Okay, so first things first, you need to enable your developer tools. The way to do that is you're going to head over to help. Mine doesn't show up here because I've already enabled it, but you're going to click on help and you're going to click on enable developer tools. Once you do that, then you'll come over to your Claude here, click on settings, and this should be right here. This developer should be on the left hand side here. If you haven't, it means that you need to make sure you're enabling it. So once you do that, you come to developer here, you're going to click on edit config, and this is going to open up this file automatically. So now what you need to do is it already will select this Claude desktop config.json. You're just going to right click on it, click on open with, and you can open this with any of your text editor that you have. I'm just going to use Sublime Text, or you can use whatever you have. Some Sublime Text, you're going to open this up. I'm going to delete all of this, and I'm going to go ahead and copy and paste this thing. By the way, I'm going to put this in the bottom here. There you go. So let me copy this. I'm going to put this in the bottom of the video in the description as well, so make sure you check it out. So I'm going to copy this and come back to my Claude here, edit config, whoops, go back here, there you go, and I'm going to paste this. So just quickly, what this means is that this is essentially enabling and providing all those arguments that we have done. Again, in my previous video, when I did the MCP video on community nodes, we had to go inside the credentials and add these arguments, which is command is npx the argument will be -y, and we're using this super gateway to be able to have access to our MCP servers. Again, you don't have to worry about anything here because once you set this thing up, you don't have to worry about it afterwards. So here you need to, mine's already loading it because like I said, I already set it up once earlier, but this is going to be your own, your URL. So if you go back here inside your MCP server, this is exactly what this is. So make sure you're on production. You're going to click on this, you're going to copy this. And as you can see, mine says Zubair t.app.n8n.cloud/mcp/mcp/ssc. I could change this to like whatever, and this is going to change the path URL here too. Okay, so let's go ahead and I'm just put my name here so that way it's simpler to access. So I'm going to click on this, copy this, head over to my Sublime here. I'm going to get rid of this and paste it. Okay, all right, perfect. So that worked now. So then you're going to just save this. And now you're pretty much done. So now let's go ahead and go back to our Claude here. So maybe I'm gonna close this. So you're gonna quit, go back and open it again. Okay, all right, we're good to go here. So now it says MCP n8n server disconnected. And the reason for that is because our n8n workflow right here, this is inactive. So if you see this message, it means that your n8n workflow that you're trying to attach this to is inactive. So I'm going to click on active. I'm going to go back to my n8n here and make sure you're copying your production. So in the way you can always double check that from your config file. So now let's go ahead and save this. We're good to go. So now if I go to my Claude, let me reopen it so that way we can see it fresh. Now it should show the tools there. There you go, perfect, right? If I click on the tools, now it says available MCP tools, calculator and Gmail, right? So we only have these two tools here, calculator and Gmail. So now let's go ahead and add another tool so that way you can see that it has, it will update it automatically and we don't need to do anything else afterwards. Once this thing is set up, once you add more tools and you refresh Claude or just reopen it, then it should have access to that. So let's go ahead and add calendar this time. I'm just going to use a Google Calendar. And same thing, make sure your Google Calendar is selected. So I'm going to change the resource to get many. I'm just going to use my calendar here. And I'm going to click on define by model by everything else. Okay, perfect. Okay, so now I have added this third one. So if I go and refresh my Claude, let me get rid of this again. This time it should have 3 tools because we just added our Google Calendar tool. It says, oh, I forgot to save here. So make sure you save. Every time you add a new tool, by the way, make sure you save. So I'm going to click on save, quit again, go back. This time it should have 3 tools. Let's let it load. Perfect. There you go. Now it has calculator, Gmail, and Google Calendar, right? So we're good to go here. So let's go ahead and test this thing out now. So same thing. On my calendar, I have these 3 fictitious events. So let's go ahead and test this thing out. So I'm going to go to Claude and I'm just going to say, do I have any meetings tomorrow? I'm going to say use the Google Calendar tool. That's what the name of the calendar is. Yep, Google Calendar. Perfect. I'm going to press enter. So now this is going to ask you for permission to make sure that you're allowing it. So you can say allow once or allow for this chat. I'm going to click on allow for this chat. And now it should access our Google Calendar and pull up all of our meetings here. And as you can see, perfect. 3 meetings, busy, lunch with John, AI workshop onboarding. And that's exactly what I had here. So now if I go to my executions, again, because this is active, we have to go to our executions to see what happens. If I click on execution, there you go. We only had 1 execution and we asked it to reach out to Google Calendar to grab our information. And that's exactly what it did, right? So perfect. Everything looks like it worked out. So let's go back to our Claude again and it looks like it's good to go. So now let's go ahead and actually add another workflow, for example, right? So if I click on tools, and I click on call n8n workflow tool. So this is what makes this MCP server extremely powerful because now you can attach any workflow that you've built inside your n8n through this call n8n workflow tool inside your MCP server trigger, which then could be consumed by whether it's your Claude desktop or from your AI agents that we're going to build in a little bit. So for this particular one, I'm going to use my personal expenses workflow that I created for one of my previous videos. So I'm just going to go back to my community and just grab that. Go to Classroom. It was part of the AI Agent Army that I did. It was right here. So if I download personal expenses, Agent Army, I'm going to download this so that way you can see exactly what this is. And if I go to my workflow here, import this from file, and there you go. So this is just a personal expense agent that has access to my personal expense history in my vector database here. So this is what I'm going to call from my MCP server here. And I have named this inside my database, inside my n8n database. I've named it as personal or AI Agent Army personal expenses. So if I go to my list here, I can pull up, there you go, it's this one, Agent Army personal expenses. And that's exactly what this is right here, okay? So let's go ahead and name this. So I'm just gonna call this personal expense. You can name it whatever you want, right? Personal expense, okay, rename it. And I'm just gonna say, use this tool for all personal expense related activities or queries or whatever, you know. I just want to make sure that you're giving it a good description so it knows exactly when to use this tool. So now if I click on save and refresh my Claude, go to Claude, now it should have 4 tools, right? If we did everything correct. And there you go, perfect. Now it has access to personal expenses. So now let's go ahead and test this thing out again. So now I'm going to say, how much did I spend on marketing in the last quarter of 2024? I'm going to say use the personal expense tool. Okay, I'm going to press enter. So now it should access the personal expense tool and reach out to that separate n8n workflow essentially. There you go, perfect. Allow this chat. And hopefully this will pull up the information exactly that's sitting inside the vector database. And again, we'll double check this, of course, on our execution to make sure that it made everything correct. There you go, perfect, right? October 15th, YouTube ads, Facebook ads, and sponsor post on the ad LinkedIn, exactly $3,100. Okay, awesome. So that's how you can attach multiple tools and multiple workflows that you can give your n8n access or this MCP server access to. So same thing, now we can add another, like for example, a vector database tool. It's going to be very simple. You're just going to go to Pinecone, for example, Pinecone vector database, and you're going to choose, for example, your database or your indexes that are sitting inside your vector database. In my case, I'm going to use this vectorize that I earlier uploaded a bunch of those crypto related information. So the process is pretty much the same thing, but I'm just going to actually just copy it from here. So that way it's easier. So I'm just going to copy this, bring it over here, paste it. So now this is a tool. And I can attach this to this, right? Inside my Pinecone vector database, this is a crypto knowledge base. Use this tool to retrieve information about anything related to crypto. And this is the index that's sitting inside my Pinecone vector database. So as you can see, now it has access to all these amazing tools. And same thing, if I click on save and go to my Claude and refresh this, now it should have access to that 5th tool that we just added, right? So let's go ahead and let this load. And perfect. So now it has 5 tools, crypto knowledge base, personal expense, everything else. All right. So that was kind of using a external host, in our case, the Claude desktop app. Now what we need to do, so let me go ahead and make this nice and pretty. It's good. All right. So now what we need to do is we need to go ahead and add or test our MCP client tool. And in this case, obviously, this MCP server that's set up here, this could be accessed to, like I mentioned before, to an external host through Claude Desktop, for example, or within your n8n workflows, you can create another workflow, for example, an AI agent or something that will be able to access this particular MCP server and all of the tool that it has access to, right? So I'm going to go ahead and add a AI agent. All right, that's good to go. We need to add another trigger here because there's already a trigger, but I'm just going to go ahead and add a node here, which is going to be chat trigger. Okay, perfect. Let's go ahead and attach it to this. Chat model, I'm just going to use OpenAI. Actually, I'm going to use GPT-4. Perfect. I'm not going to give it any memory. So tools, this is where we need to now add the second native node, the MCP native node that n8n added, which is called the MCP client node, right? So I'm just going to search for MCP again. And now you can see it says MCP client tool, right? So this is where now we can have access to the MCP server that we created earlier, right? Imagine this is, or your AI agent is now the host that can have access to your MCP server. Earlier, when we were testing our Claude desktop, this was our host. In this case, our AI agent is the host. Therefore, we need to give it all the tools from this MCP server. The way to do that is you need to click on, or you need to add this MCP client tool, and then you need to attach your MCP server through this endpoint, which is the SSE endpoint, right? But this is extremely simple. All you have to do is just now copy your production URL here. So I'm just going to go to production, click on this, copy it. And because this is active, it should be able to interact with it easily. So now I'm going to go inside MCP client, and all you have to do is just paste this, right? So now this should be able to have access to all of the tools that is sitting inside this MCP server. So now let's go ahead and go inside this. So same thing, authentication, you're going to leave it as none. So tools to include, you can leave this as all, which means that it will include all of the tools, or it will have access to all of the tools that are inside this MCP server. Or you can click on select. So if I click on selected, now this will load all of the tools that's inside our MCP server. In our case, we have all these tools, right? The crypto knowledge base, the personal expense, Google Calendar, Gmail, and calculator, right? So you can do this manually, or like I said, just to be lazy, you can just leave it at all. And this should be able to be smart enough to realize based on the query that the user is asking it, which tool to use, right? So let's go ahead and test that out now. So now I'm going to go ahead and same thing, click on open chat this time, because this time we should be able to now interact with this, and we're going to go ahead and take a look at execution to make sure everything is working fine. So let me go ahead and bring this over here. All right, so I'm going to ask it the same exact question that I asked earlier from our Claude host, but this time from our AI agent, right? Because our AI agent is now the host that has access to our server. So now I'm going to go ahead and say, what did the price of Bitcoin spike to at the end of 2013? So now this should know which tool to use from this MCP client node. There you go. Perfect. So now it's going to pull up. Awesome. It says at the end of 2013, the price of Bitcoin spiked to approximately $1,238. Amazing. So now we'll see exactly if we click on the logs here, MCP client, it says it reached out to the tool called crypto knowledge base and it grabbed that information, right? So perfect. It reached out to the correct tool without us actually identifying or without us telling it which tool to use. In our Claude desktop earlier, we had to identify, we had to tell it, use this particular tool. The great thing about the AI agent here with the MCP client node is that no tool that it has the knowledge or it has the capacity to understand based on the user's query, which tool to use. Again, the tools that are available within the server, of course. All right, so now let's go ahead and take a look at the execution. This was the last one. And perfect. See, as you can see, it used that Pinecone vector database tool, which again has knowledge, this crypto knowledge base. All right, cool. So now let's go ahead and test one more time. We're going to say how much, I'm going to ask the same question. How much did I spend on marketing last quarter? Oops. Quarter of 2024, right? So now it should use another tool, this personal expense tool. There you go. So it's going to reach out. And again, as you can see, I'm not identifying and I'm not telling it which tool to use. It should use automatic, should know exactly which tool to use automatically. And perfect. There you go. So the same answer that we got earlier from our Claude desktop. And if I click on the MCP client, this time it used the personal expenses. Okay. So now let's go ahead and take a look at the execution. And if you see at the last one, this should show us that it used this personal expense tool. Again, this is reaching out to our Agent Army Personal Expenses, which is a separate workflow. So it uses exactly this tool. And again, as I mentioned before, I'm not telling it which tool to use because I told it that it has access to all of the tools that's available. If you want to identify, same thing, you'll click on select here and you'll select exactly the particular tool that you wanted to have access to. But again, in my case, I'm like, why would I do that? That's just extra effort. But maybe if you have a use case that's going to require that specific parameter to engage, then you can most certainly do that. All right, well, as you can see, this could be amazing, and I'm going to be doing a lot more videos on this, especially for my school community, because I'm going to do a deep dive topics. MCP has a lot of potential. Obviously right now it's a very new tool, it's a very new technology, so there's a lot of skeptics out there, and for sure they should be, because again, any new platform, any new tool, or any new technology that hits the market, obviously in the beginning it's going to be a bit up and down, and there's going to be a lot of things that are not going to be 100% vetted. But as this technology improves, then this has a lot of great potential in the future, especially with the way we interact through our AI agents, because as you can see, this reduces the amount of work that we have to do significantly, right? And this can give your AI agents really a lot of power, so that way you can engage with multiple tools and multiple servers as well. Anyways, hopefully that was helpful. It was a very long video, I understand, but I wanted to make sure you follow everything step by step. The great thing is, like I said, now that you have this set up once, you don't have to worry about doing this again, especially with your Claude desktop. And within your n8n, of course, this is even simpler, because once you set your MCP server, you have to just copy and paste your webhook URL, or not, I shouldn't say webhook URL, the URL right here, and you're good to go. So go ahead and play around, add other tools, add other workflows that you can call from your own n8n MCP server to make this even more powerful. Make sure you like and subscribe, because I've got a lot of amazing content that's coming up. And again, if you're serious about learning AI agents and more about MCP, make sure you check out the community. I'm going to put the link in the description. Hopefully I'll see you there.